Namaste, welcome to today's session. Today's session is on Chandogya Upanishad. It is considered as one of the principal Upanishads that are enumerated by Sri Shankara, Adi Shankaracharya. And Chandogya Upanishad is part of Samaveda, and whatever I am going to explain, that is part of Max Muller's translation of Chandogya Upanishad. Max Muller, he was a foreigner. He came to India, studied Sanskrit, studied Upanishadic philosophy, studied Vedas, translated them into English language, and supplied them with his own commentaries. So that is the greatness of Max Muller. So Chandogya Upanishad, it is considered as it was written as in 6th century BC or 7th century BCE, so before Common Era. So, and Chandogya Upanishad, Chandogya means related to Chandasu or related to grammar, related to proper recitation. So in this Chandogya Upanishad there are so many instances, there are so many paragraphs which explains how to utter a special syllabic formations. So maybe that's why it is called Chandogya Upanishad. Means how to utter, how to pronounce, and what are the meaning of syllabification in a word, and what are certain grammar rules. So that it means that is some important aspects of this Chandogya Upanishad. And Chandogya Upanishad, it consists of 8 prapatakas. Prapataka means we can take it as chapter. So this consists of 8 prapatakas. So it is totally divided into 8 prapatakas, and each prapataka is divided into innumerable kandas, sub-chapters. So mainly we have to remember as it is divided into 8 prapatakas. So that is an important thing here. Prapataka means lecture, culmination of a lecture, culmination of a talk. So that is the important meaning of a prapataka. And many important facets of Chandogya Upanishad is, it is highly impossible to to explain everything which is there in Chandogya Upanishad in the 30 minutes or in 1 hour or in a day. It is not possible. So whatever is important for our life and for our studies, that I am going to share, that information I am going to share with you all. So the Prapataka, in the beginning it is said that Om is called Udgita, some sort of utterance. So Om is the essence of creation. Om was before beginning of the creation, and Om is the reflection of self, and it is termed as Udgita. And it is said that earth consists of water, means the essence of water, essence of earth is in water, and essence of water is in plants, and essence of plants are in man, and essence of man is in speech, and essence of speech is in Rigveda, and essence of Rigveda is in Samaveda, and essence of Samaveda is in Omkara, that is Udgita. So ultimately everything begins from that Omkara and everything ends in the Omkara. So beginning point and the culminating point, the point of culmination, that is the Udgita. So that is Omkara. So that is what I say important thing we need to understand here. And apart from that, other important thing in Chandogya Upanishad is Chandogya Upanishad. We can see a few important characters which which are revered as impersonations of or incarnations of some vital qualities. So here, before going for those characters, here another explanation is also there, that is Gayatri Mantra. It is said that Gayatri Mantra consists of 24 syllables, and some rules are given how to pronounce or how to syllabify that Gayatri Mantra, and what are the important aspects of that Gayatri Mantra. in this Chandogya Upanishad. That is a big topic here, and it is said that Gayatri Mantra is primeval. Primeval means it is the source of the energy. It is the source of prana in each and every creature. So Gayatri Mantra is the source of energy, like the sun is the source of energy on the planet. On the planet, if you see, the reason behind the existence of life is sun. Because if sun is not there, there is no scope for life. So Gayatri Mantra is in the praise of that energy, that self, which is the part of each and every creature. So by recitation of Gayatri Mantra, by chanting the Gayatri Mantra, one can pay homage, one can pay respect to that essence of life which is present in each and everything, and essence of that source of energy which is present in each and everything. So Gayatri Mantra praises the source of life, the source of energy. So it also vitalizes the energy which is present in the chanter, in the person who chants Gayatri Mantra. So that is the importance of Gayatri Mantra explained in Chandogya Upanishad. And apart from that, here it is said that Rik is speech, Saman is breath. Saman or Samana is breath. Rik is speech, and Samana is breath, and Udgita is syllable Omkara. So these three together form an essence of life. So speech and breath and syllable Om, these three together form important aspect or essence of life, essence of existence here. So Omkara or Pranavanada or Udgita covers both speech and the breath. So without breath, speech is not possible, and without Omkara, that speech is not possible. So Omkara pervades both speech and the breath, and breath pervades the both. So they are interconnected with one another. So that is the essence of this saying. And here it says that mind. So mind is greatly affected by speech, vision, breath and sound. Speech, vision, breath and sound. So when mind concentrates much on vision, much on sound, external sound, and much on a talkative attitude, externalization, then the mind would become extrovert. That individual will become an extrovert personality. Extrovert personality means he always looks outside. And means senses, especially vision means eyes. See, even though our eyes are closed, physical eyes are closed, mind can create ocular visions, means mind can create visions in our, in our thinking patterns. And even though sounds are not there, means even though our ears are closed, sounds can be audible through our mind. Even though we closed our lips, we can chatter mentally. We can talk mentally, means we can talk to ourselves mentally. So this speech, this vision and this sound, means sound which makes vibrations. So all those things are somewhat, they are directing the mind outward. So Omkara is somewhat related to the speech, somewhat related to the vision, somewhat related to the auditory perception. That Omkara chanting slowly day by day on a progressive mode, it internalizes the mind. So with the help of chanting Omkara, mind can be internalized. Once the mind is internalized, spiritual progress becomes possibility. So spirituality is finding the self within your own self, finding the Brahman within our own self. So that becomes a possibility by chanting Omkara, and Omkara has no religion in it. It is just a sound. See, while chanting Omkara, A, U, Ma, even we don't have tongue, even we don't have teeth, we don't have the capability of much articulation in our oral cavity, we can chant it. So that is the essence of Omkara, and according to some scholars, this Omkara has become Amin or Amen, Amen in various religious practices. So this Omkara is not related to any particular religion or any particular sect. It is of universal use. So why it is needed? According to Chandogya Upanishad, Omkara is needed, means we have to chant Omkara to make the mind internalize, making the mind turn inward. So we need to, for instance, chant Omkara in solitude, at the place of silence. So Omkara, we know that Omkara is of 4 syllables, A, O, M, and silence. So Om and silence. So that is the complete chanting of Omkara. And here a small story is there, that is Satyakama and Jabala. Satyakama and Jabala. Satyakama, he is a teenage boy, and Jabala is his mother. And Satyakama wanted to pursue spiritual studies under a teacher, under a renowned teacher. That renowned teacher's name is Gautama. Gautama is not related to the Gautama Buddha of Siddhartha Gautama. He is Gautama. Name is Gautama. So Satyakama, in those days, whenever a student wants to get admission under a teacher, that ancestry, family ancestry must be known to the teacher. So Satyakama asks his mother about his parentage, about his father. So Jabala says that no, actually I don't know who is your father. Means it was long ago. It happened, and I don't know now who is your father and what is his profession, where he is. I met him once in the past, and he parted away and he has gone. Now I am alone since your birth. I have been living alone, and I don't know what is his ancestry. So Satyakama, he determined to pursue spiritual studies. So he, with that information which his mother has given to him, he goes to the teacher, and teacher asks, what is your ancestry, Satyakama? So Satyakama, without hiding the truth, he explains to the teacher about his parentage and about his father. No information about the father. So in those days, ancestry is very much important. But Satyakama's revelation of truth, without hiding any fact, he revealed truth to his teacher with the sense of surrender. So Gautama becomes very much happy, and he invites Satyakama to be his disciple. And he gives 400 cows to Satyakama. Those cows are very lean and thin, underfed. So he gives those 400 cows and asks Satyakama, go into the forests with these cows and just remain in silence, don't talk to anybody, and remain in silence, and go to the forest and you have to return to me when these 400 cows become 1000 cows. So he goes into the forest and he meditated. He meditated means not as a professional meditator. He meditated and he remained silent. He had no interaction with any other human beings except cows and birds and nature. He is completely away from civilized society. Even his Guru Gautama had no contact during that time. He was all alone. He was to himself only. So when, day by day, after some time, year by year, when those 400 cows became 1000, then a bull among those cows comes to Satyakama and tells Satyakama, "Oh Satyakama, we have become 1000. Now it is the time to go back home and you shall hand over us to our master." So bull is speaking in human language. And Satyakama, he became a little bit meditative. So when he has become meditative, he has become attentive also. So meditation does not lead to aloofness. Meditation leads an individual to, it means that individual will become attentive. More meditation means more attentive, more focused. So when, for a continuous prolonged periods of time, when he was separated from civilized society, when he was living in the lap of nature, then when the cows become 1000, when the time comes to return to ashram, Gautama's ashram, then nature, birds, cows, and many aspects of nature, many pranis in nature would come and they taught Satyakama the eternal truths of existence. See here, for understanding eternal truth, Satyakama came to Guru. Guru sent him, the teacher sent him to Aranyas. In Aranyas, he was in no contact with any other human being. He was all alone. He was in the lap of nature. Now, when the time came, when Satyakama became ready, the nature taught the secrets of existence to Satyakama in the form of birds, in the form of bull, in the form of cows, in the form of various animals. So animals and birds are coming and talking to Satyakama. They are explaining the importance of existence and the truth behind the self. Satyakama returns. After Satyakama returned to ashram, Gautama asks, what happened in the forest? So Satyakama explained. So I was meditative in forest. So after 400 cows became 1000, when the time came to return, these things happened. Birds and animals, they taught me the truths behind existence. So now his Guru Gautama, after listening all these things, he said, okay. Then Satyakama says, "Oh my teacher, without a teacher, even though I gained this much knowledge, that knowledge would not contain any vitality in itself. So teach me from your mouth." See, he is asking his teacher, okay, I learned so many things from nature. They are truths. They are eternal truths. But I want to understand, I want to gain the knowledge, I want to listen the same things from your mouth. Because I don't want to live as an individual who has no guru at all, who has no teacher at all. So then Gautama explained the same principles, the same truths which were explained, which had been explained by animals in the wilderness to Satyakama. Then Satyakama felt happy. Then Satyakama felt satisfied. So that is the story of Satyakama, Jabala and Gautama in Chandogya Upanishad. And another important thing here is, here it is, the definition is given what is infinite. What is infinite means what is limitless. Here it is said, where one sees nothing else. Listen carefully. Where one sees nothing else, hears nothing else, understands nothing else, that is infinite. That is eternity. So, infinite means limitless. Infinite means eternal. So, what is infinite? That which you cannot see. That which you cannot hear. Means you have seen and you are not capable to see more. You have heard and you are not capable to hear more. Means that more which is there. So you have understood so many things, but still there are so many things which you cannot understand. So those things are infinite. So here it wanted to say that what we know, even though we lived a life of 1,000 years, what we would come to know, that would be a minuscule of this entire creation. So no man has no authority to say that I have known everything, because everything cannot be known. If we go on studying everything, even we cannot study a leaf in its entirety throughout our entire life. It is not possible. So finite is minuscule, infinite is what I say, eternal. It is limitless. So that here it wanted to say. But by understanding Brahman, by turning inside, towards inside, we can experience that infinite. We can become one with that infinite. But intellectually understanding that infinite is highly impossible. No, it is not possible. But by experientially becoming one with that infinite is very much possible. That is through dhyana. That is through Ashtanga Yoga. That is through Pranavanada. That is by chanting Om. Means doing meditation, entering into Samadhi state. That is here explained. And one more important thing is, there is another story, that is Svetaketu and Uttalaka. That is also present in Chandogya Upanishad. Svetaketu and Uttalaka. Here, Uddalaka is father, Svetaketu is son. So here, father becomes a teacher to Svetaketu, becomes a teacher to his own son. So here, symbolically, it explains that a parent can also become a teacher to his child or to her child, because ultimately parent would be with more experience. But if the parent is, he is downtrodden in his, understanding the life and understanding the essence, then there is no scope for educate the child. So here it is indirectly implying that a parent has got the responsibility to understand the real self, to progress in the spiritual realms of existence. So Svetaketu is taught by Uddalaka about the principles of existence, about the reality of the self, about the Brahman, what happens after the death. That is also taught to Svetaketu. So actually that is the concept here is, father or mother can also become a teacher to their kids. And another important thing is, a Mahavakya is there in 6th Prapataka, Tattvamasi. So Tattvamasi, it is also important for our studies. Tattvamasi is taken from Chandogya Upanishad. Tattvamasi means I am that. I am that truth. So individual self and universal self. Individual Atman and Paramatman. So Tattvamasi means this individual Atman is the Paramatman. So this is the Advaita philosophy, means there is no difference between the Paramatman and the individual Atman. So each and every human being is imbibed with the Paramatma, the same Paramatma. So that universal self is present in the universe and present in himself. We are the part of universe. We are not, outside of the universe. We are very much part of the universe. Universe is, outside of us and inside of us. So Brahman is, we are in the Brahman and Brahman is in us. So that is the importance of this Chandogya Upanishad. Thank you very much.